Am I the a-hole for telling my mom if I wanted to watch kids, I'd have one after declining babysitting? My 25 female younger sister 21 female is pretty pregnant. For the last few weeks, she has been demanding that my significant other 27 male and I babysit her newborn every weekend, Friday morning to Sunday evening, so she and her significant other 21 male can have some cool off time from being parents to not overstress. Each time, I have laughed at her and shut it down with a quick, "Nope, I won't be." And she gets mad I'm not helping her out. Yesterday, she got our mother involved. Mom called me to ask why I was being a self-centered witch and so selfish because she didn't raise me this way. I told her I'm a grown woman with my own house and life, and that if I wanted to watch kids as a second job, I'd freaking have some. She sputtered out something about me being a horrible person and hung up on me. My significant other and my aunt 100% are with me. However, my mom, dad, and the other 900 family members and friends they got involved are calling me out on Facebook and blowing up my phone. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Edit, my relationship with the family has come up a few times now, so I'd like to point out, I don't generally have much to do with them. I talk to my mom maybe twice a month. My sister was a little more than that. I talk to my youngest sister, 16 female, my one aunt, and my grandparents regularly. But that's everyone. While I haven't cut anyone out, I simply do not engage or interact with anyone outside of the 3 hours on Christmas we are all together. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole, but your sister and her husband are. They are nuts to plan to part with a newborn for 60 hours straight every week. The fact that everyone else in your family sees this as okay is wild. You and your aunt are literally the only sane people in your family. I'd correct the sister. This is called joint custody, not babysitting. Not a-hole. Divorced dads get less custody than this, and they definitely wouldn't get this much time with a newborn. Not a-hole. And also, lol, what? So let me get this straight. Your sister and her significant other are having a baby, but they want every weekend off so they can go have fun while you watch their child. Every weekend? Yeah, sounds like they should have thought twice before getting her pregnant. This is not how that works. I had my son at 21, and guess what I did at most weekends? It's called being a parent. Ridiculous entitled nonsense is what I'd call your sister's behavior, and I absolutely fail to understand why your family is agreeing with her. If your parents think she should have every weekend off, they can watch the child. Oh yeah, my cousin has 3 kids, and guess what she doesn't have for the past 12 years? Right, a free weekend. Everyone is lucky if they have grandparents to watch the kids for an afternoon, but if you sign up for the little ones, then you know that some freedoms are gone for a while. Not a-hole. What sane person expects someone else to take care of their child every weekend? Given the fact that mom immediately had her back on the idea, I'm going with someone who has probably gotten away with making various and reasonable demands a lot in the past 21 years. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for firing my sister after she threw out my son's pine cones? This happened over a week ago. I, 30 male, need to know if I was an a-hole or not. My son, 7, passed away from a heart condition he had. It'll be 2 years in July, and my world still hasn't been the same without him. Ever since he was 5, my son had an obsession with collecting pine cones. He loved them for some reason. Every trip to the park or hiking trail, he'd come home with a bag of pine cones picked out. I helped him preserve them so they would last way longer. It became a fun activity for us to do at home. His last Christmas, he gifted me a pine cone he painted himself, and it was the best gift ever. I kept all his pine cones stored away since he passed. Sometimes on bad days, I like to take them out and admire them. A couple months ago, my sister lost her job. She's a housekeeper, and my parents urged me to help her out by hiring her to clean my house. That wasn't an issue for me. The problem with my sister is everything needs to be cleaned her way, or she throws out things she deems aren't worth keeping. For instance, my late wife's old sketchbooks that she found in my garage, or my old guitar that I don't play as often as I used to, but still keep in good condition, my old wood carvings, etc. I've had to tell her that unless it's in the trash can, don't throw it out without checking in with me. I came home the other day and saw my storage closet nearly empty. One of the things missing were my son's pine cones. She wanted to surprise me, but I was so overwhelmed I told her to leave or I was going to scream at her. She texted me later to ask what she did wrong. She just saw that it needed to be tidied up and thought I wouldn't be too mad. I called to tell her she's fired for throwing out my son's pine cones because she knows how much he loved collecting them. Her defense was, they weren't really necessary to keep around when I have other things of my son's, like his toys and drawings. But this was specifically something that he loved so very much. Now it feels like a piece of him has been taken from me and I don't want her in my house again. My sister begged to keep this job because she was relying on this, and to give her another chance. But I couldn't bring myself to that. Everyone is mad at me for leaving her without a job. My mom is angry at my sister for what she did, and told her off for being insensitive. However, she feels that losing income shouldn't be a punishment for hurt feelings. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She was doing her job poorly. Imagine if she did this with other clients. She would lose her job then too. She can't just decide what's get thrown away or not. Also, she should have immediately apologized for what she threw away, instead of digging her heels in and trying to justify it. Sounds like she has thrown away a bunch of important things to you, but I'm surprised you let her stay on as your housekeeper this long. Oh, the things I mentioned she didn't actually throw out, like my late wife's stuff, but she insisted they should be because why would I want that when I don't use it? It was the fact she kept pushing it that made me order her not to throw anything out without my permission. I probably would have had the same reaction if she had thrown them out like she did with my son's pine cones. Yep, bearing an imminent danger like a pileup of human waste or extreme hoarder conditions, she doesn't get to decide for herself what to throw away, much less do so. She clearly knew how important the pine cones were to Opie and didn't care about his wishes. She lost her job because of her actions, period. Wow, I can't imagine why she lost her first job as a housekeeper. You're not an a-hole. No housekeeper should be making decisions about personal belongings. It's even worse if she knew they had sentimental value to you. Not an a-hole. A housekeeper is not allowed to destroy possessions of the homeowner, unless they specifically ask her to. She was probably fired from prior jobs for the same shenanigans, and her lack of income is her problem, not yours. Not an a-hole. And if this is how she acts, I'm surprised she ever had a housekeeping job to lose in the first place. It's not even like she thought you would want them to be thrown out. She knew what they meant to you and your son. She had no right. I'd never let her back in my house, let alone on my payroll. Also, she feels that losing income shouldn't be punished by hurt feelings? The absolute audacity. Hurt feelings? How about losing income over destruction of property? You know, the crime she committed? Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for letting my brother and his wife watch our 4-month-old daughter without asking my wife? My wife and I have a 4-month-old baby girl. So far, only one person has allowed to watch the baby, wife's best friend. Her best friend is a good caregiver, and she's a mom herself, but she's not like super nanny or anything. Just a normal person. My brother and his wife have been begging to watch the baby for us, but my wife always says no. My brother's wife is a certified newborn care specialist and lactation consultant. Not saying she's any better or worse than wife's best friend, but I think it's safe to say she'd do a great job of taking care of our baby girl. Yesterday, my wife was at work and I needed to take my car up to the shop for an oil change and inspection. It had to be done today as my guy won't be in the shop again until after the 4th, so my inspection would expire by then. I didn't think it'd be fun for my little one to sit in a stinky gas station auto shop for a few hours, so I dropped her off with my brother and his wife. Well, now I'm in the doghouse. 1, for not asking her first, and 2, for letting someone else watch the baby who isn't wife's best friend. I didn't ask because I didn't think it was necessary. I knew 100% that our baby would be well cared for. I was within 10-minute drive, and both my brother and his wife have cars with a car seat. They had all the supplies they needed. My wife's job is also within 10 minutes of their house. My wife is upset because she doesn't want a bunch of people watching our baby, which I get, but it was just my brother and his wife. I don't plan on sending her to Grandma next weekend, Aunt Edna the next, and Cousin Jimmy the week after that. Just one day with her aunt and uncle, 4 hours total. She thinks we need a consistent person to watch her best friend. Now for the comments. Not Dayhall. I'm guessing this is your first child, and your wife sounds like she's a little over anxious about the baby, which is totally normal, but just because her feelings are normal, that doesn't mean she's in the right. Unfortunately though, as you both navigate parenthood, you are going to have to find a balance because if you continue down a path of whatever she says goes, you will likely end up resenting her, and it can do damage to you, your marriage, and how you are as a parent. Baby steps. Apologize for not telling her ahead of time, but tell her that it's not okay for her to make these decisions unilaterally. Fight about it, then find a compromise. Hijacking top comment to suggest that maybe postpartum anxiety is playing a part in his wife's decision. It's real, and can really affect new moms in a harsh way. Thank you. I was about to say the same. My postpartum anxiety and depression spiraled so far out of control and mixed with my regular poor mental health. I diagnosed depression and anxiety even before that. And basically, it became so much worse than it should have been. I'm now barely able to leave the house without feeling physically sick to my stomach from panic, and my kid is 6.5 now. Opie, please make sure your wife is okay. That drop in hormones from pregnancy and birth, mixed with everything else, is absolute hell on a number of new mothers. I'm not saying that what happened to me could happen to your wife, but please make sure it's not PPA or PPD, because it's so hard. Not day haul. You left your child with trusted family. She's 4 months old, not 4 weeks. I suspect she's probably in her routine and was just fine spending time with uncle and aunt. My brother's wife is certified newborn care specialist and lactation consultant. That sounds more qualified than your wife's friend as someone to watch the child for a brief period. You need to talk to your wife and figure out why she's so weird about this. The only reason I think he's the a-hole is because he did it knowing full well how his wife felt about it. Everyone sucks here. You went behind your wife's back, which is wrong. But your wife needs to understand that you may need additional people who can babysit if necessary. Just one person, her BFF, isn't enough. I don't think it was so much behind her back, as made an executive decision because she was at work. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for including my ex's daughter in my life? Sleepovers, vacation, etc. Sorry if any of this gets confusing. I have a 5-year-old daughter, Annie, with my ex. My ex also has an 8-year-old daughter, Elsie. Ex and I broke up when Annie was a little under 2 years old. It was really hard getting her for overnights because she has never been away from her home/mom overnight. We realized that she did much better if her older sister was there, so she started coming too. Annie has no issue staying the night by herself now, but since I had to kind of keep playing stepdad after Rex and I broke up, Elsie and I do have a bond of some sort. She will come stay the night most of the time, unless she has other plans, or her mom requests she stays home for some reason. My girlfriend and I are trying to plan a little last-minute vacation for August. We are going somewhere very family-friendly, so I said we should ask if Elsie wants to join. Elsie has been on vacations with just Annie and I before. Girlfriend let out a big sigh when I said this. I was confused, because up until this point, she's never expressed any issues with Elsie being around. We got to talking, and she basically asked, when will this end? When Elsie is a teenager? When she graduates high school? When she gets married? Never? I didn't know what to say because Elsie and Annie will always be sisters. So yeah, it will probably never end. Elsie is a good kid and Annie adores her. So I have had zero hesitations about ever inviting her along to hang out with us. Plus, I do feel bad for Elsie. X is a good mom doll, but she can't really afford much outside of basic necessities and the occasional treat. There are lots of things Elsie gets to do with us that her mom could simply not afford. And I feel like I sort of owe it to Elsie. The only reason she started coming over was to help comfort her sister, and she still is a big help with Annie. My girlfriend is not happy with this situation suddenly. She's apparently been holding out hope that things were just like this because of the pandemic. But it's very concerning and inappropriate to know that it's not the case. Am I the a-hole for still inviting Elsie to hang out with us even if she's not my kid and I have no legal obligation to her? Not the a-hole. You don't have an obligation to include Elsie, but it shows what a kind heart you have to do so. It would be very sad if you chose to cut her out completely just because your new girlfriend is jealous. Your girlfriend is showing you how immature she is on this issue. If you give in on this with her, next she's going to be going after your daughter too. You need to set her straight that this is how your life is with your daughter and her half-sibling. If girlfriend doesn't like it, she's welcome to leave. Yep, this feels like the beginning of a slippery slope. Elsie was also Opie's stepdaughter when he was with her mom/his ex, It's not like she's a younger half-sibling that Opie has no relationship with. I suspect girlfriend didn't realize how involved of a dad Opie is until recently, and is now reconsidering if she's signed up for all that. Yeah, I could understand if she decides it isn't for her and Bales, but you can't say this was unexpected when she dated someone with a former partner and a kid. Not a-hole. First of all, I think it's great that you're including both sisters and treating them as they are. Sisters. You sound like a great dad to Annie and overall a nice dude. I think your girlfriend needs to understand that this is the deal. You come with a kid, and the kid comes with a sister. Both of them are part of your family now. She's not the one to decide who gets to be part of your life. She can either accept that Elsie is part of your family or move on. Please don't reject Elsie because of this. Not a-hole. But one thing to think on is how long before the girlfriend starts saying the same thing about Annie. The latest I can imagine is when she has her own child with him. Exactly. It'll be, can we ever just do anything with just our family? Am I the a-hole for yelling at my mom about replacing me with her new kid? I know it sounds bad, but hear me out. So I, 27 male, and my mom, 45 female, have never had a good relationship. My dad, 52 male, worked a lot of hours, so it was always just me and my mom. All she did was nag me constantly. It was always about that stuff, and she never listened to what I wanted. For example, she'd pack these elaborate lunch boxes, and when she found out I was giving it to my friend, she got really upset even though I told her before that I wanted normal food. To make it worse, she guilt-tripped me by packing my friend his own lunch and dropped it off every morning when she drove me to school. It was a passive-aggressive stunt. Long story short, my dad and his coworker clicked. Things happened and my mom freaked out and they divorced. I was 16 and wanted to live with my dad and my stepmom, who was way more chill. She let me live and didn't nag me about homework and stuff. My mom tried to get custody, but the judge let me decide. My dad and stepmom didn't make me contact her. A few years later, I changed my number for insurance stuff, moved out of state, and we lost contact. She was literally already married and had a kid, but she didn't tell me. It wasn't 11 years of no contact like people said, just a couple of years out of touch. So she basically lied to me. Recently, my grandparents had their anniversary, and they somehow invited my mom even though she's the ex. I didn't think she would show up. She came in with her husband and a 5-year-old kid, my half-brother. My mom had married someone without telling me and had a kid. I was so upset that she hadn't even told me, so I yelled at her. I was really hurt that she replaced me with a perfect, well-behaved kid. She was going to pretend I didn't exist so her perfect life could continue. She threw a tantrum and left with her new family. My grandparents asked me to leave, but my dad and my stepmom had my back. They said it was ridiculous that she hadn't told any of us that she got married and had a kid. My grandparents said that they knew and were invited to her wedding. Now my dad is mad at his parents, I'm mad at my mom, and my life is a mess. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Edit, I don't care that she remarried and had a kid. I care that she hid it from everyone. Jesus, she was a helicopter parent and didn't let me breathe my entire life. And guilt-tripping how much she loved me so much, when she didn't even care to look at me once during the anniversary party. It's not like she used to tell me I was the light of her life or stuff. It's not like I'm her son. Now I'm nothing to her because she has a new family and a new son that she can mother hand the heck out of and then abandon when he's a real person instead of her perfect dress-up doll. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. What you describe sounds like normal parenting. Eat your breakfast, put on clean clothes, do your homework, go to bed, you have to get up in the morning. I wouldn't pack pretzels and mozzarella sticks for a kid's lunch either. And it sounds like your friend needed and enjoyed his lunch, and yet you're making it all about you. You may have left out the details that explain why it's so awful that your mom nagged you about these things. With the details that you're giving though, it's hard to see what's wrong. Your dad cheated on your mom. You picked your dad's side because your stepmother didn't do any parenting. You and your father chose to drop out of the relationship. Your grandparents didn't. Then when your mom is invited to dinner, you scream about how she didn't tell you she was pregnant. You're the one who chose not to reach out to her for 5 years. You replaced her in your life. But now you're complaining that she's moved on. A 40-year-old woman isn't too old to think about kids. She just kept saying the same things over and over like a broken record player. We couldn't have one conversation where she didn't start it off with her telling me to get some rest, or eat food, or stop playing video games. My friend wasn't poor or anything. He just didn't like the school lunch. I knew she did it just to embarrass me. She was passive-aggressive about it, saying stuff like how she was glad someone appreciated her food, implying that I didn't. It wasn't like I wasn't eating healthily at home. What was wrong with pigging out for lunch if every other meal was healthy garbage? I was 16. It's not like I was a child who needed constant supervision and nagging. My stepmom understood that I'm 27. Nobody tells me to wash my socks or eat healthy meals. I do that stuff because I decided to. It wasn't really cheating. From what my dad told me, they were barely even in a relationship at that point. 40 is way too old for a woman to think about kids. The cutoff is 35. You're the a-hole. You don't get to go no contact and then be angry when they don't contact you. I didn't go no contact or whatever with her. I just wasn't interested in the same conversation over and over. How are you? What are you doing? How was school? How are your friends? Is literally the same stuff over and over. I was tired of hearing that, so I just stopped picking up her calls. I expect her to at least try to reach out about big stuff like getting married. You're the a-hole. I'm confused here. You picked the parent you wanted to live with and did not hold up contact on your end. You moved, changed numbers, never bothered to give her the new one. Your passivity had a huge part in your estrangement. And then you suddenly get confused that you missed a major milestone? I get it. That reality of that half-sibling hurt. But maybe there was some part of you that expected her to always just wait for you, even if you had no intention of returning. And the realization that she moved on with her life, which by the way does not mean she stopped loving you, she just accepted your choices, even you made them passively, was like a bucket of cold water. But you were out of line, not her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling the court that I would rather live with my dad after my mom showed up with her stepkids to the dinner I planned? My 15 female parents divorced when I was 3. My mom remarried 2 years after that and my dad 5 years after. They had 50-50 custody, until last month when I decided to fully live with my dad. Both of them have stepkids with whom I'm not really close to. They're more like friends than my brothers, and at first both of them prioritized them over me. Since my dad remarried when I was 8, I was able to tell him that I felt put aside and left behind because he had a new family that he seemed to prefer. My dad is a very sensitive person, and this rubbed in the wrong way. Things were hard at first, but with a lot of family work, we were able to get through that, and things are a lot better now. Even when my dad messed things up, he really tried to fix them. He wasn't perfect, of course, and neither was I, but this brought us closer. Things with my mom were a lot different. I can't remember the first years, of course, but I've always felt that my mom preferred her husband over me, and this caused her to love his children more. She forced me to call him father, to give up my room to his twins, and everything my dad or my grandparents got me I had to share with them, whether I liked it or not. When I was 10, I told her the same thing I said to my dad, but she reacted way worse than that. She accused me of wanting to break up her marriage, of being a jealous, spoiled brat, and that I was an ungrateful little witch because she had done everything to keep me safe. But I can't remember the last time I had my mother alone, or at least a proper conversation when she didn't focus on my step-siblings. I let time pass, and in September of this year I was accepted into a private high school with a scholarship in Mexico. I was so excited because if you get accepted into the high school, then getting to the uni is way easier, and this is one of Mexico's best universities. My grandparents helped me to plan a dinner for my parents to give them the news, so I asked both of them to go to my grand's house alone next Sunday, because I had something important to tell them. I make sure to tell them that it was only the 2 of them, no spouses, no stepchildren, and both of them said okay. But my mom attended with my 5 step-siblings, and went mad when she realized that there wasn't enough food for all of them. She and my dad fought, and she left before I could give her the news, and I only told my dad. Then I asked him to take me full-time because I couldn't pretend that my mom wasn't hurting me. She thought that I was going to come to her house despite that, and when I didn't show up this Monday, she accused me of abandoning her. Told me that I was an awful daughter, and her side of the family is harassing me to go back because a mother is the only thing I'll ever have, and that my dad has never done anything good for me. Not today, home. Your invitation specifically stated no extra guests. But your mother ignored this despite confirming she understood. Your mother failed you. She should have given you space to have a relationship with her, just between the two of you and not sharing it with her new family. She's never done this. She's expected you to roll over for her family while making no concessions for you. She had to make your special dinner and news about her family. Congratulations on your achievement. May your future be bright and with people who genuinely care for you. Tell the flying monkeys to shove it. You are old enough to make your own decisions, and it was your mother's choice to ignore your request to come alone. If they're posting on social media, block them. Thank you for your advice. I blocked some of them, but I can't bring myself to block my mom despite all of this. Maybe don't block her, but set it so that there's no notification. That way you can look at her messages at your leisure. Not at a-hole. She obviously favors your step-siblings over you, and your dad truly cares for you when he can. She might have a deeper motive for having shared custody of you instead of I am your mother. I'm guessing she doesn't want to pay child support. Now that I live full-time with my dad, she has to pay him. Thought so. I'm guessing when you're at her place, she does bare minimum for you, just enough to have kept shared custody. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole I insulted my wife in front of my family? I and my wife have been married for 8 years. She told me she wants to be a stay-at-home wife when we got married, because she didn't like her job that much. I was okay with it since I earned enough for both of us. My mom had to drop out of school because she lost her parents at a young age, and she had to do manual labor to send her siblings to school. The Indian government then did not have any concessions for orphan kids. She had a choice to either go to school herself or send her siblings to school. Because of this, she dropped out in 8th grade, 14-year-old. Both her siblings got employed in really good companies, and they took care of her since then, until she got married. My dad passed away just 2 years after their marriage, and she had to take care of me on her own. Her siblings did help, but she worked 2 jobs along with that to support us both. I was an only child, and my father died while she was pregnant with me. Today we had a family get-together. My mom, her siblings, each of their kids and daughters/son-in-laws, grandkids, etc. After having dinner, my wife said we needed to leave early because our kids have to go to basketball, swimming, and also private tutors tomorrow. My kids were begging her to let them stay for a little longer. My mom asked my wife if they can miss 1 day of practice to spend time with family, since the kids also must have missed their cousins after not having met them for nearly a year. My wife retaliated, saying an illiterate woman wouldn't know the importance of education and extracurricular activities. My mom was clearly hurt and apologized for overstepping. I told my wife that literacy clearly hasn't taught her, my wife, basic manners. My wife got mad at me for insulting her in front of everyone and went back home with the kids. She's not even picking up my calls or replying to my texts. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Your wife sounds awful and should show your mom all the respect in the world. As many people say on this site, this is a massive red flag. Your wife clearly looks down on others and doesn't have respect for you or your family. Stealing the top comments to say to OP, don't divorce her. Whatever you do, don't. She will get primary custody because she spends more time with the kids, and you would have to pay child support and alimony. Try to get her to have a high-paying job and spend a lot of time with her kids for primary custody. This may be true in the US, but OP is in India. It's even more true for India. Stay-at-home mom almost always gets the alimony and kids. Alimony because a large majority of Indian women are housewives and dowry is a norm, often against their wishes, and there are laws in place to protect them. Of course, this also means that there are women who are unfairly advantaged too. Even if his wife was working, he'd still have to pay alimony. And regarding children, in Indian culture, it's assumed that mothers matter more to the kids than fathers. It not only means that culturally only women are expected to drop their careers for kids and become a stay-at-home mom, but it also means that fathers hardly ever get the custody of their kids in divorces. Divorces are also very uncommon. I personally don't know any divorced couple or have seen one in real life. I'm Indian. My wife retaliated, saying an illiterate woman wouldn't know the importance of education and extracurricular activities. The question isn't whether she's an a-hole for this comment, it's how big an a-hole she is. If she's aware of why your mom had to drop out of school, since she knew enough to make comments on it, then she's much worse than if she doesn't know. Either way, her comment was cruel and uncalled for. I told my wife that literacy clearly hasn't taught her, my wife, basic manners. This is an excellent point and a fair response. I don't agree with publicly shaming, in general, your spouse, but she had the audacity to insult your mother's education when your mother stepped up to be a parent to her siblings. Calling that behavior out in front of your mother was important because your wife knows you won't sit idly by while she badmouths your mom. Not today, home. Family get together, my mom, her siblings, each of their kids and daughter/son-in-laws, grandkids, etc. My wife got mad at me for insulting her in front of everyone. Thing is, your wife made this comment in front of everyone. She thought it's okay to humiliate your mom in front of the people she dropped out of school to support, their spouses and kids, entirely unprovoked. Since your wife is giving you the solid treatment, you may want to give her time to cool off. Then ask her why she thought that was an appropriate thing to say. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not buying pads for my sister's best friend during her first period? I-18 male was supposed to pick up my sister and her best friend, both 12 female, from school and take them to ballet class. I arrived very late and they were waiting for me alone on the sideway. I saw that something was up. While they were waiting after the school has already been closed, my sister's friend started to have her first period. I don't know almost anything about periods, but the point is that there was a red stain on her skirt. My sister did not have her first period yet. The friend was crying and my sister asked me if we could go to a pharmacy to get pads for her. I didn't want to do that. As an adult man, I didn't think it was appropriate for me to get involved on such an intimate thing for a girl I'm not even related to. I asked her if she could call her mom, but she said that her mom was working and couldn't respond. I decided that the best course of action was to take them to their ballet class, where there would be a lot of women that could help. I told her to sit over her backpack so she wouldn't ruin my car. I left them at the class and that was it. When I told my girlfriend, 18 female, about this, she was really angry. She said that what I did was totally wrong and that I'm an idiot. I get that she knows more about periods than me, being a woman, but I think that my reaction was logical. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. There were plenty of options here other than ditching her at a public location. Call your girlfriend to come help. Give your sister money and let her buy them. You buy them. Walk into the drugstore and find a female clerk who would help her. Take her to the dance school. Let her sit in the car, and you go in and find a mom who could come out to the car and help. Not make her walk in with solid clothes looking for help and just leave her there. Take her home so she can clean up there and potentially find her mom. This, 100%. Like there was so many other ways this could have gone better. It really wouldn't have taken much time out of his day either. 10 minutes max to run in a store. Ask for help for choosing the right pads for a 12-year-old. A few minutes to run into the ballet place for her and ask an adult woman to help. Like it really wouldn't dapper his day at all. He's just being insecure and worried about his masculinity card. You're the a-hole. Get over yourself. Buying pads for a 12-year-old isn't intimate. It's being kind. Would you have bought her band-aids if she scraped her knee? When you have a daughter, will you refuse to buy her any intimate items like pads or tampons? It's the fact you heard a 12-year-old girl needing hygienic products, and his head jumped into intimacy. Red flag. You're the a-hole. Periods are not intimate things. It was an embarrassing situation for a girl, and you made it so much worse. If you're really an adult, you need to act like one and deal with things like an adult. He was responsible for these kids, and he didn't look after them when they needed an adult. Am I the a-hole for getting upset my boyfriend wouldn't take me to the ER? My boyfriend, male 20, and I, female 21, live together at my parents'. I have been having some pretty bad UTI symptoms. I went to a walk-in clinic 2 weeks ago when I had clear signs of infection, and they sent me home and said I tested negative. I woke up a week later with extreme hip pain. I spent all day on a heating pad and crying. 2 more days passed and then I woke up with the worst abdominal pain I've ever had. I began screaming and called my mom. She says to wake up my boyfriend and tell him to take me to the nearby hospital, 7 minutes, that is small, or one that's 35 minutes away that would properly handle what was going on. I wake him up and he says to just sleep it off. At this point I'm in tears. He says no and alludes that I'm overreacting, which I've been known to do, and it's probably nothing because I tested negative. I feel as if I've been stabbed, and this is not the type of pain I can wait out. I even compare how I'm feeling to a possible bladder rupture because of how awful I felt. Finally, he agrees to take me, but only if I let him sleep for 2 more hours. I understand that if it was some ungodly time, but it was currently 11:30 a.m. and I went to bed at 3 a.m. after playing video games. I explained that I can't wait that long and have no one else home to drive me. He turns over and lays back down. An hour goes by of the worst pain of my life, and I decide I will just try to suck it up and drive myself to the nearby ER. I woke him up one more time, and I explained that I cannot wait any longer. I need to go now because something is wrong. He snaps and says give him 1 more hour, then lays back down. I storm off in my car and make it about 2 blocks before I realize I forgot my wallet, and I was in no state to drive as I was literally in so much pain I couldn't focus. I come home and lay down in bed beside him as I scream out in pain. He says that I know it takes time for him to wake up, and I have no right to get mad. I barely utter out please take me to the one 7 minutes away because I'm scared. I remind him that I've driven 2 hours at 3 a.m. and no sleep just to pick him up from the hospital, and spent the whole summer helping him recover from his injury, including bathing and wiping him because he needed me. He argues some more, then finally at 2:30 p.m. takes me to the hospital 7 minutes away. It turns out that I had an advanced UTI and infection in my bladder and kidneys, as well as a kidney stone that was infected. I felt bad as I recalled my attitude that morning, but I was in a lot of pain. I do recall saying things like, fine, just don't help then, and you're being a prick, in rebuttal to his attitude. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Past the kidney stone, past the boyfriend. Not the a-hole. You need rid of all these. Screaming and crying in pain? A person that can ignore that is not the one for you. I take it cab etc. weren't an option. You can't rely on this guy, so you need to have alternatives. Nope. Super small town, so no Uber etc. He really was my only option at the time to get the care I needed, and he knew that. Babe, dump him to the curb, and I don't say that often. He is not a keeper. You will have to drive to give birth alone, raise kids alone. My hubby had those kinds of pains and it was his appendix. If I had waited, it would have ruptured. Just run for your life. Quite literally. Because if they had kid, OP must also raise the adult child too. Also, someone who's refusing to help you to go to ER is something you must stay away from. You were in pain and asked to go to the hospital. Why your partner didn't hop up like there was a fire under him is concerning. Sounds like you need a new boyfriend. One that actually cares about your well-being. Yep, this. First, not day home. Then, red flags. This boy has shown you who he is, and how he doesn't value you or your health. Kick that dude to the curb. You not only can do better, you must do better. First of all, I hope this is a troll, because can such a bad boyfriend exist? Dump the whole man. At least that's what I would do. What kind of person could ignore their partner who isn't this much pain? Also, you said you are known to overreact. Is this something you've actually noticed about yourself? Have people in your life told you that you tend to do that? Or was it just your boyfriend? Mostly boyfriend. After posting this, it's kinda starting to make sense why he keeps cheating and I can't get him to stop. Because it's starting to become clear he doesn't care. He's cheating too? If you stay in this relationship, you're the a-hole to yourself. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for exposing and embarrassing my brother's girlfriend? So I'll keep this as brief as I can. My brother started dating this lady, Jessica, in January. The 3 of us live in the same city, about 3 hours from me and my brother's parents/extended family. So until recently, I was the only member of his family Jessica had met. One of my brother's favorite things to eat is this sweet potato and red pepper soup I make. The relevant info here is that the soup features onions as an ingredient. Not enough that you'd eat it and go, oh wow, this sure tastes like onions. But enough that if you skipped them, it wouldn't taste right. I make this soup for him approximately once a week, and Jessica has come to love it as much as he does, without ever mentioning any issues after eating it. So the issue. My brother, Jessica, and I traveled to Brother Dai's hometown for our grandmother's 90th birthday celebration this week. Our mom was catering it, specifically with traditional Indian foods, since that's where she and our grandmother are from. However, when we arrived and I offered to help mom with the prep work, I noticed she was making several additional dishes like chicken nuggets, chips and finger sandwiches, and was keeping them well separate from the rest of the food. I asked what that was about, and she casually said, I'm just making sure that Jessica can have something to eat with her allergies. I said I didn't know she had allergies, and Mom said, yes, she says she's severely allergic to onion, garlic, and coriander. If you're familiar with Indian cuisine at all, you get what would be an issue for someone with these allergies. Except, Jessica eats my soup. All the time. It has onions, and it's never caused her a reaction. The part where I may have been an a-hole is I said this to my mom, which, if you're familiar with Indian mothers, you may understand how that could have been a bad move. She didn't kick off or act aggressive, but she did confront Jessica about lying and ask if there was something wrong with her cooking. Jessica just got kind of red and stammer, and eventually admitted that she just doesn't like all that curry stuff, but thought saying she was allergic would be less awkward. Mom got pissed off because she'd taken such efforts to keep everything separate and whatever to avoid cross-contamination. Jessica got mad because Mom was mad, and my brother got mad at me for saying anything in the first place. Everything got rather awkward, and Jessica ended up not even coming to the party. They now haven't spoken to me all week, except for my brother telling me I'm a gossipy a-hole, and that I shouldn't have said anything, which, yeah, I kind of get. Was I an a-hole? I didn't intend to cause drama. It was kinda just a surprise. Oh, that's weird. My soup with onions in doesn't make her ill. I feel bad for ruining her first impression with our family and embarrassing her. You didn't expose her maliciously. You were simply caught in her lie. Nothing would have happened if Jessica hadn't lied to start with. Faking allergies to force people to cater to your needs is very disrespectful. I understand that Jessica's mad at you because now she won't get any respect from this side of the family and will always be seen as the liar. But it's all on her. She played a stupid game, she won a stupid prize. Faking allergies to force people to cater to your needs is very disrespectful. And it makes things so difficult for people who do have them. My best friend is allergic to garlic, hot peppers, strawberries, basil, rice, all sorts of weird stuff. When people fake allergies and get caught at it, it makes the lives of people like my friend more dangerous. Yep, I have major and weird food allergies. The number of times people have decided that because Joe Blow is faking, I must be too, have been insane. So do I. I am allergic to nightshade. I had a waitress hide a small piece of tomato in my food once. It sent me into anaphylaxis in front of my small children. Jessica lied to your mom to avoid all that curry stuff. Brother blamed you for gossiping? You answered your mom's honest conversation about how she was trying to do the right kind of cooking for Jessica. Your mom sounds great. Poor woman to have Jessica for a possible future daughter-in-law. Yeah, Mom's awesome. That's part of the reason this is so annoying. If Jessica just said, hey, I don't care for Indian food, Mom would still have made her something else. She just wouldn't have had to go to the effort of preparing separate sanitized work surfaces and what have you. She could have just wiped things down as normal between prep. I'm glad you recognize how awesome your mom is. I would give my non-existent left nut for an in-law who would go that far to accommodate our food allergies. Next story. Why 53 female is not okay with me, 55 male, paying for part of my ex-wife's 55 female daughter's 27 female wedding. My ex-wife and I were high school sweethearts and married as soon as we graduated. We stayed together for 5 years and had a daughter. We'll call her Kara. The relationship wasn't working, so we split, and my ex came out as a lesbian. My ex later had another daughter, Hannah, via honor, and I ended up becoming a father to Hannah. My ex didn't ask me to. We were on very friendly terms and already co-parenting Kara, so it came naturally. I met my now wife 3 years later, and she was very understanding of the situation and took the role of stepmother to both kids. We also have a son. Hannah's getting married next year, and my ex and her partner and I will all be paying for the wedding. We talked about this before, including my wife, and everyone was fine with it. But now my wife tells me she doesn't like the idea of me paying for the wedding of a child who isn't really mine. She thinks that the money should go towards our son's education instead. I already saved some money for our son that should cover him for a couple of semesters. He can always work part-time or apply for financial aid as well. Still, my wife is upset and thinks I've taken care of her enough, and it's time to basically exit her life. I'm shocked because she seemed to absolutely adore Hannah, but I guess she never really considered her family. She made it known that she wouldn't care if it was Kara because she's my actual blood daughter. But I consider Hannah my daughter, and my ex's partner has also been a parent to Kara, including financially despite no relation, so it isn't one-sided. Edit. I'm putting in $1,200, and so is my ex and her partner. The money is coming from my separate account. Any other expenses will be covered by Hannah and her fiancé. They aren't having anything extravagant, and I have way more saved for my son. If him or Kara get married, I will put in for them too. Now for the comments. All of this over $1,200? I thought it was like $25,000 since she wanted you to use it for your son's education. Just give them money and move on. Using it for their son's education was really just a lame excuse. She just doesn't want her husband to pay anything because she isn't blood. Opie's wife sounds awful. Agreed. He sounds like a wonderful man being there for his kids, and the wife sounds bitter and hateful. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. Hey Opie, it's $1,200 and your daughter's big day. I'd say pay for it out of your personal account. I'm so glad for the sanity check, because the comment section looked very different an hour ago, and I wondered if I was legit going crazy. He had an established relationship with Hannah before he met his wife. She knew I parented her and considered her his. She agreed to marry him knowing this. She co-parented Hannah. Here's the deal. Hannah is your daughter. Blood doesn't mean much. Being present and involved does. This was established before you were even married. Therefore, helping with her wedding is not only acceptable, but absolutely appropriate as you are her father. I adopted my daughter and have 2 boys of my own, and I love her as much as my boys. Well, probably more because daughters always hold a special place in a father's heart. I think you need to have a candid talk with your wife about this, and how important it is for you. Now for the last story. I feel like my female friends are hitting on my boyfriend, and I don't know how to address it. My boyfriend, 31 male, and I, 24 female, live together, and for the last 7 months have also worked in the same place of employment. We don't work closely, but other employees are aware we are dating because we arrive and leave together, and typically take lunch breaks together. For background information, I am very introverted. I find it incredibly difficult to make friends. I haven't had any friends for a few years now, especially with COVID. Recently, 2 girls with whom I frequently work with started chatting with me from time to time. I don't know their ages, but I think they're closer to my boyfriend's age than mine. They asked the other day if I wanted to hang out with them, and I was so excited. They suggested a movie night, and I offered to host but explained that my boyfriend would be home. They said this was fine, and we set a time and date. They are currently still over, and we're watching a movie. I bought wine and made a few baked goods and also bought some chips. I just wanted to have a good time. When they arrived, they were friendly, but when my boyfriend came to watch the movie with us, they started to ignore me. The girl beside me sneezed and accidentally spilled her wine in my lap. She apologized, but it did feel intentional. I laughed it off and went to get changed. When I came back, both girls had moved to the same couch as my boyfriend. One was whispering something to him and the other was touching his arm, acting afraid. We were watching a scary movie. My boyfriend looked mildly uncomfortable and was sitting forward in his seat. When they saw me return, the girl stopped and kept watching the movie, but didn't move. I sat on the couch I was on initially, and my boyfriend moved to sit with me. Both girls followed and sat beside him. Nothing more really happened. The movie's almost over, but they've asked to sleep over. They've both had wine, and I don't want to force them to leave if they're intoxicated, but everything that happened made me so uncomfortable. I thought they just wanted to be my friends, but now I don't know. Am I being oversensitive? I don't even know anymore. No, you're not. That is super inappropriate. I would ask them to leave. It's 2021, they can call an Uber. I would talk to your boyfriend too. He clearly wasn't okay with it, but just to be on the same page. But in no way are you being sensitive. Honestly, I would have asked them to leave the second I saw that. Just the fact that they changed seats twice to be close to him, super prick move. I wonder if them suddenly wanting to hang out with Opie coincided with them seeing her boyfriend for the first time. I wouldn't be shocked. I actually had the same thought after reading a few comments saying Opie is basically crazy, that no one acts like this. I, for one, am not shocked women and men alike have no respect anymore, and a lot of young women take pride in getting a taken man. Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. Any girl can get a single guy these days if they know what they're doing. A taken guy, however, is more of a challenge because they aren't just gonna throw themselves at you. My boyfriend looked mildly uncomfortable and was sitting forward in his seat. My boyfriend moved to sit with me. He is a proper fella. Good for him. I don't want to force them to leave. Time to put on your big girl pants. You did invite them to a sleepover. If you let them walk over you on this, they're just going to amp up their attempts at your boyfriend. You'd expect him to handle it where it's his friends behaving this way to you. Put your foot down. Then apologize to him, tell him you love him and you won't put him in that position again. Trust me, that's going to make him love and respect you even more. You're definitely not being oversensitive whatsoever. I would be 100% uncomfortable myself, and the fact that your boyfriend was uncomfortable too shows that this isn't just nothing. I would personally speak to them and say that what they did made both of you feel uncomfortable, and that type of behavior cannot continue if they want their friendship with you to continue also. If they get upset and blame you in any way, take that as a response and don't entertain them anymore. If they don't say anything, take that as a response also and don't entertain them. Hopefully they'll understand your boundaries, but if not, it's not the end of the world. I don't have many friends myself. It is important to remember that your self-worth doesn't reflect on how many friends you have. As long as you enjoy your own company, that's all that matters. Am I the a-hole for getting my boyfriend expelled? I, 23 female, have been with my boyfriend Chad, 22 male, since I was 15. We were planning on getting engaged next year, and I'm pregnant. But now we're on the edge of a breakup and I'm starting to feel like it's my fault. Fall 2021, I took a world history class and finished it with the highest possible grade. Chad isn't so great with history, so he asked if he could see my final reflection paper to look over my phrasing, double-check his MLA format, etc. I said sure, shared it with him, and didn't think too much about it until I got an email from my old professor. She asked me if I knew Chad. I told her I did, and she explained that he had turned in my paper from last semester. I was furious and confused. She apologized and said that she had to report both of us, but she would say she didn't think I meant for him to plagiarize my work. I got called down to the dean's office, and it was explained that if I was found guilty of letting him plagiarize my work, I would be expelled. So this whole semester would be meaningless since finals are in May, and I'd have to pay back my scholarship. I immediately went, I can prove he was just supposed to look at it for structure, and showed them all the text of him asking to see it for comparison, thanking me because I explained the format in a very detailed way, sent him other papers online with similar structure, etc. They asked for my phone, to which I said no, but I'd email them screenshots. Chad was called down next, and they told him what I had said. He was suspended and expelled like a week later. He doesn't have a scholarship to back though, and he's transferring to a community college. He's furious and insisting that he just accidentally turned in mine instead of his. I told him that I never said he turned in mine on purpose. I just was able to prove that I didn't intend for him to plagiarize me. He's packing up his stuff and saying he's going to move back in with his parents and, well, figure things out. The assistant dean contacted me to officially clear me of any involvement, but she did tell me that this isn't the first time he's plagiarized me, after a harder look at some of his other work this semester. She mentioned that it was a crime, but I didn't want to press charges or anything, so I told her I didn't need to report of their findings. I'm crushed and feel used. He said I should have said it was an accident instead of just defending myself, and so do several of our friends since they say that I don't know for sure, and I'm about to have his kids, so I should put our relationship above everything else. I'm basically isolated now. I have one friend and my family who agree with what I did, so I don't know. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I don't know if plagiarism is a crime or not. I was just repeating what the ad said. I haven't looked into it since I wouldn't press charges anyways, but she said it's a form of theft since one of my papers was featured in a magazine. I'm in Texas, if that matters. Now for the top comments before reading the little update. Not the a-hole. This guy put you in jeopardy and damn near got you expelled despite being totally innocent. If he were any kind of man or had any sense of honor or loyalty, when he got caught, he should have fell on his sword and said, "It was all me. I broke into her computer. She had nothing to do with it." Instead, he tried to drag you down. This is not a suitable person to have in your life, much less a partner. It's better if you both take the fall for my accident. Before Opie said there was a history, I didn't believe for a second it was an accident. Indeed. Plus, when the college investigated further and found more evidence of him pulling the stunt, Opie would have been banged up as an accomplice if she would have tried to cover for him with this ridiculous story that nobody would buy. If he just accidentally turned in the wrong paper, how did it get his name on it? Aside from being a snake and not giving a hoot about dragging Opie down with him, he's also kind of an idiot. Never enter into a plot with a moron. It will be a fiasco every time. Not stay home. If Chad has done this before, then it wasn't an accident. You didn't get Chad expelled. Chad got himself expelled. His actions also could have gotten you expelled if you hadn't been able to prove that you hadn't allowed him to copy your paper. Honestly, I strongly suggest you break up with him. I know it will be more complicated with a baby coming, but you should not be with someone so callous about your future. Yes, she literally did nothing but clear her own name. He wants her to take the fall with him, and that's utterly unreasonable, given that he's been pilfering her work and turning it in as his own for a while. Little update. Thanks everyone. I'm surprised and thankful for all the responses. Chad has been making me think anytime I'm upset/angry it's the pregnancy hormones, so I have been doubting myself a lot lately. I'm notifying my landlord since it's a monthly lease and taking my mom's offer to move back in with my parents. He's pissed and is now saying this is proof I've been cheating and the baby isn't his since I'm moving out, even though he started packing first. So he's saying he won't help with anything until a paternity test. Luckily, all the baby stuff is at my mom's because I left it there after we went on a shopping spree, so he can't take/sell it. His mom is threatening to sue me for full custody of the baby if it does turn out to be his. My dad is checking to see if my uncle knows anyone who does these kinds of cases, because he's a lawyer but doesn't handle that kind of thing. Thanks everyone. I'm overwhelmed, but I think I'll be okay. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband off for expecting me to prepare his bags? My husband works full-time while I'm a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids. He splits childcare 40-60, but lets me handle all of household chores, from cleaning, cooking, vacuuming to shopping and whatnot, saying it's my duty and replacement of work hours. We were okay with these arrangements, but days ago, his mom invited him to his sister's wedding. She didn't invite me because the wedding is allegedly child-free, but I guessed it was because of a fight we had 4 months ago over what school my eldest should attend. I was hurt since I love sister-in-law, but my husband said his mom is basically paying for the wedding and the list she had for the uninvited is longer than the one she had for the invited. He advised me not to get too worked up over it and just focus on kids while he's gone. The night before his flight, he asked that I put his things together and tossed me a list of what he needed. I gave it back and said I won't do it. He was puzzled, asking why. I told him I was tired and went upstairs to sleep in the bedroom. Moments later, he barged in calling me petty for basically refusing to help him pack just because I wasn't going to. He said, "Your problem is with my mom, not me." I asked him why should I prepare his bags. He said because he's busy and because I always do it. I said yes, but why should I do it this time? He said because of 4 letters SAHM and it's essentially part of my household chores. I told him off, said I won't do it, end of story, and went back to sleep. He threw a 3-minute fit, then walked out, then came back and turned the light on at 3 a.m. to pack, preventing me from sleeping. I told him this was pathetic. He said he's no match to how petty I am and ignored when I told him to turn the lights off repeatedly. He went to the wedding. Now he's back looking agitated most of the time and keeping on complaining about the stance I took. Am I the a-hole for not preparing the bags? Not the a-hole. Your husband's been treating you like crap for a long time. A stay-at-home mom with 3 kids should not be doing 100% of household chores. And packing up your husband's clothes is not a household chore. That's basic taking care of yourself. He is essentially claiming that he is one of the children and you're his mommy too. Also, not inviting you because the wedding is child-free? You're not a child. He doesn't stand up for you to his family and treats you like a maid. It's not a good look. And couldn't they have hired a babysitter or asked a friend or relative from her side to watch the kids? But the husband didn't care. It should be up to the OP and husband to decide if they can find childcare and make it work. To simply not invite without an explanation is a telltale sign that the child-free zone is not a legit reason to not receive an invite. You are his wife, the mother of his children, not an indentured servant. Y'all need therapy and you need an exit strategy, not a-hole. You sure wouldn't know it from the way he treats her. This is how my ex was. Only, I make more money than you do, so you have to make up the difference, was his position until he made me quit working. not stay home. In my opinion, he shouldn't have even gone to the wedding. But again, my opinion. Stay-at-home mom doesn't spell out servant. You do household chores. That doesn't include packing for a trip you aren't taking. You aren't his mother, a babysitter, etc. And like I said, he shouldn't be going while you weren't invited, and expecting you to pack for him on top of it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend to pay for my mother's surgery costs because he has too much money? I will make it very short. No need for any details because I'm so exhausted. My boyfriend works an excellent job that brings him so much money. He works as a computer engineer, and he has money more than he needs. My mom is having surgery the next month, and it's very important, but neither of us has enough money. I have been dating my boyfriend for a year now, by the way. I told him that he should help mom because he has more money than he needs, but he refused, and he said that he's not going to pay thousands and thousands of his money for mom. I got angry at him and told him that he shouldn't expect me to pay for him then if it happens that he needs surgery one day. He called me immature and I stormed off. I just don't get him. We are partners. Shouldn't he help me through sickness and all that's bad? I would have definitely helped him with money if I were in his shoes in this situation. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Not your money, not your choice. Also, you don't get to decide who has too much money. You can tell him to pay and you're the a-hole. It is entirely up to him whether he wants to do so or not. You're the a-hole. You've been dating less than a year and you expect him to take on a huge financial burden for your family. It doesn't make sense. You are not entitled to his money. I can see her using him as a light bank while demanding she gets the best treatment. What does she even do for him? It's not even listed if she truly loves him, etc. Sheesh. I predict a breakup in the horizon. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. He should dump you immediately. His money is not your money. This entitlement test would quickly expand to all your other expenses. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to share our nanny on vacation and potentially canceling the trip over it? My 33 female husband, 35 male, grew up with younger siblings. However, he also had two older half-brothers, 43 and 46 male, from his dad's first marriage. He wasn't close to them growing up. They didn't even live in the same state. But 43 male recently moved to a nearby area with his family and wants our families to be BFFs. His kids are about the same age as ours, 11, 8, and 3. We do an Airbnb vacation every year with our kids, 12, 8, 6, 2, and our nanny Lauren. Having Lauren there means we can spend more time with the kids one-on-one. They get to do more of what they want to do. There's someone to take the baby back to the house when she gets overstimulated. And yes, occasionally my husband and I can have a dinner out alone. In addition to the 7 of us, my husband's brother, 29 male, usually comes along as well. We don't expect him to babysit, but he's still sort of around for the kids and have another set of hands. This year, 43 male also want to come so our family could bond. But we've had issues at different points during the planning. For example, we were looking at Airbnbs. What we would usually do is a master bedroom, 1 to 2 rooms for the kids, a room for Lauren, and then 29 male on a pull-out couch. Sister-in-law really wanted to put Lauren in with the kids, which I felt like was inappropriate. Second of all, it became clear as we've approached this trip that sister-in-law expects to be able to use Lauren as well. For example, I said on our first morning, husband and I were taking 12, 8, 6-year-old on the sailing activity while 2-year-old stays with Lauren. And she said, great, I think we'll take 11 and 8-year-old into town. Clearly intending to leave her 3-year-old with Lauren. I said, not sure if Lauren will be available to accommodate. And my sister-in-law was like, it's only 2 kids. What's the problem? I went to Lauren and said, what do you want here? And she said she'd be fine with it as long as she was paid 50% more, and also was never solely responsible for more than 4 kids outside a house. In other words, it's fine if they're just hanging around, but she wasn't comfortable keeping 7 kids safe at a beach. She was also open to sharing responsibilities with a second babysitter. Sister-in-law's kids are actually pretty easy, which she knows. I told sister-in-law that and gave her the option of covering the 50% increase or covering another babysitter. Sister-in-law was like, well, we can't afford a babysitter for the entire vacation or to pay Lauren. And I don't understand what the big deal is, because considering she'd rarely be alone with all 7 kids anyway. There's 5 other adults. Sister-in-law / brother-in-law are doing okay money-wise, but we are significantly more comfortable, so my husband thinks we should just eat the cost of Lauren's additional pay to keep the peace. But I'm really irritated by sister-in-law's attitude. I'd honestly want to just cancel the entire trip at this point, even though flights and the house have already been booked. This feels like a sign of things to come. Not today, home. Lauren is already being kind at a 50% upcharge for twice the work. I'm a nanny and I would double my hourly charge in this situation. Your sister-in-law's the a-hole here thinking that Lauren should watch her child for free. But OP, don't cancel the trip. Use your words and send sister-in-law a text. I completely understand that your budget doesn't include a 50% charge from Lauren, so we've let her know that she doesn't need to watch her kids at all. We'll pay her typical rate. We just want to make it very clear that she is being paid to watch our kids, and we absolutely won't put her in an awkward position where she's expected to watch any other kids, even for a few minutes. I want us to just be able to enjoy the trip and wanted to make sure that's all out in the open before we go. I'd give this a 9 out of 10 chance of backfiring. Sister-in-law will lie, say, okay, fine, and when push comes to shove, it'll be the same, I don't get what's wrong, it's only a few kids, she can take care of them, routine. OP and Lauren will most definitely have to deal with this. OP, don't cancel the trip, just do it without sister-in-law. Not stay home. I have a feeling if you do decide to eat the cost and pay Lauren the extra 50% yourself, you might not have a nanny by the end of the trip, because your sister-in-law will be ordering her around or cross a mother boundary. Exactly this. It's one thing to eat the really fair upcharge, but it's sister-in-law's general attitude that gives me pause. I fully expect that if you eat the cost, that sister-in-law will take that to mean that she has full use, read abuse, of your nanny. I would avoid that. Not stay home. You're protecting your relationship with your family babysitter and her requests are totally reasonable. It's not your responsibility to pay for your sister-in-law to have a sitter. I think canceling your whole trip is a bit dramatic. Instead of clarifying to your sister-in-law that Lauren will not be available for her to use if she's unable to compensate her, and you'll be telling Lauren the same thing is totally reasonable. The main issue being if OP and spouse go out to dinner, there's nothing to stop the in-laws from leaving Lauren with her kids. Exactly. And Lauren might not be in a position where she feels comfortable saying no, either because of power or it's an inappropriate moment. I feel like usually on a trip like this, there would be a lot of casual shared care, like one parent gets up to grab food for everyone, while the other parent keeps watching the kids play together and disciplines / feeds / monitors / comforts the other set of kids as needed. And if the kids are playing together, it's hard to draw the line or blank the other 3. Like when my kids have a friend over, Lauren doesn't refuse to make a second snack or refuse to interact with an 8-year-old because technically she's not paid to do so. There will be times where it's appropriate to say, no, I can't do that, or go get your mom. And we want to empower Lauren to take advantage of those times, but that won't always be the case.